Well, it's been a whole other week. How are you feeling?
Remarkably similar.
Well, I hope you're on the mend.
I'm sure by the end. So, just in case the inside joke isn't clear, I would assume by the end of this week I'll actually be fine. So, as we record, this episode will be airing a week later than it's recorded. We'll have some scheduling issues there. So, recording a couple episodes back to back.
You cannot tell them about how the magic is done.
Technically, I post the record date on the notes anyway, so people can figure it out if they try.
Well, I mean, I guess that assumes that people are going to read the notes. That assumes
I don't
that
think
people,
anybody reads the notes.
That assumes that people read. I read show notes for the shows that I watch, and some shows are good and some shows are not.
I take a very lazy approach to our notes. I started out trying to do them a bit more in depth and neat, and I think if we had a larger audience, I would go back to that. But it seems kind of wasteful to put that much effort into it at the moment.
I agree with you, especially since you've got transcripts. So, yeah. I think there was something. Oh, yes. I wanted to go back to 2 episodes ago when we were talking about double entendres because I forgot about one. One that I had heard, for as long as I can remember and not getting it until last week when we were, or the week before when we were recording. And last week when we were recording. I'd heard someone talk about a bumper sticker that was around that said "honk if you're horny," and so every time I heard that, I got the entendre in that, the horny being a reference to sexual desire, but I didn't get the fact that the thing that honks is a horn, so it's horny.
And I knew where you were going with it when you said "honk if you're horny." But I never think of the horn aspect of it, not without intentionally thinking about it. That's never going to be something that comes to mind.
Well, see, now I'll think about both of them.
Well, I guess now that we're actually talking about it, I'm going to think about it. But even then, realistically, the likelihood of me thinking of the horn aspect at all is going to be very low. And that's coming from someone who played a brass instrument in band.
Oh, what instrument did you play?
Trombone.
No fucking way.
I did.
Me too.
I didn't realize that.
And I think that deserves the explicit E.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you still have your trombone?
I do not.
I do.
Okay.
I can't play it anymore, but I still have it.
I mean, you could.
Well, I could make some noise. Yeah, I could figure it out again, I'm sure.
Do you remember all the positions and so forth?
Not exactly where they fall on the slide, but I do remember them roughly. So I actually started with a regular trombone, and then the trombone just a regular trombone.
Okay,
yeah, typical.
That's
slide.
all I ever had.
The trombone I have, though, I upgraded to a trigger trombone.
Yeah.
And so that's the one I have. And so I do not remember the translation between the traditional 1 through 7 positions and what the positions are with the trigger. I would have to go back and look those up.
Yeah. I play. I think I started in 5th grade, and just like you said, you're like, I know the approximate positions. I think that's how I was the entire time I played. I was not great. And I remember the first band. They're not coaches. What are they? Like, if you just have like a group of kids in middle school or older elementary school kids playing instruments, does that do you qualify as a director?
Yeah, it would be a band director.
But what if you're just teaching trombone players and I guess it wasn't just trombone players. I don't know. Anyway, director just seemed a bit too lofty for this position, but I might be being really ungenerous. But anyway.
I mean, I'm sure you have assistants like you do elsewhere. So I played in middle school, and and we only had the one band director. There was no assistant. So if there were additional people assisting, I could see them being either specialized in an instrument or two, and having maybe some assistant director, maybe is what they would be referred to, or just band teacher in general. But we didn't have that type of structure, so I don't know what it would be.
Yeah, I don't either. I just remember. I'll just say band director for whoever this was. He was. I mean, he knew how to play trombone, and he wanted to encourage us to learn the positions, learn to read the music, keep the time, and move to the positions as you should by reading the music and keeping the time. That's kind of it's kind of what you would expect a band director to do. And he would talk about the trombones, like if you're bad, if you're not a good trombone player and you haven't practiced enough, you were going to end up watching the guy next to you watching their slide. And so he would say it in this tone. He would talk negatively about slide watchers. And he said it like that every time. And oh man, I was such a slide watcher.
So I remember us having similar conversations. We had, it was either 5 or 6 trombones. I don't remember exactly. But we had one that was very much a slide watcher and just did not get it. Was always noticeably, like if you watched everybody perform, he was always noticeably that slight bit behind because he was watching where he was supposed to be. It is what it is, right? Like some people take to it, some people don't. But he never made the attempt to learn and understand. He just wanted to follow the leader, so to speak.
Yeah, I believe the bare minimum is 76 trombones. Yeah, I was that guy. I was that guy. That was. I was not a guy. When I was a really little kid, I was like, I remember one time, I don't know, we were at somebody's house, and their kid had a drum set. I was probably like 5 or something. Their kid had a drum set, and I sat down at the drum set and I banged on it for a while, and I really loved it. And my dad was like, well, maybe one day you can get a drum set. And I grew up and tried out the instruments for band. I think I was in 4th grade, and it was like for going into 5th grade. And I don't, you're given like 5-10 minutes to like mess around with an instrument. I like saxophone, the flute, the trumpet, all of them. And when they take you to the percussion section, it's just a snare drum. That's it. That's all you get. And I thought it felt weird. And I was like, no, I don't want to play the drums. And for some reason, I picked the trombone. It seemed cool in that 10 minutes. And I was like, every time, literally every time I was going to band practice, I was like, why didn't I pick the drums? I should have picked the drums. And then I gave up the trombone. Like I played in 5th and 6th. I played into high school. Not like, not in a marching band or anything like that, but just like whatever band options they had, I know you did like a thing for the parents every once in a while. And I think in 6th grade, my parents' church had a little church orchestra for like a production that they did, like a dramatic Easter production that they did. And I played in the church orchestra and, stunk it up over there. And because like the other trombone player, he was either in college or out of college. He's young, in his 20s, but I'm over there like watching his slide too. And and so I was like, okay, I stopped playing. I think when we that church that my parents went to was in Tennessee, and when we moved to Alabama, there was actually I still played here. There was there just wasn't a good out. There wasn't a good place to do it, and I wasn't that interested in it, and I was losing interest, and so my parents ended up donating my trombone to uh, one of the families at our church whose son uh, was in the band and wanted to play the trombone. He was a few years younger than me. Gave it to them, and I think it was a nice idea. It was a good thing to do, and he had my trombone. I remember seeing him, like I was friends with his older brother, and I remember seeing him with it. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't remember how I got roped into playing the trombone, actually. I know it was not initially my choice. I wanted to play sax.
Yeah,
And
sax is awesome.
I know the band director had a role in influencing choice. And I know it had to do with ear and scoring on like tone and understanding different things and et cetera, et cetera. And part of it was just because you needed different parts of the band or the orchestra, or you couldn't play songs either. So for whatever trajectory or reasoning and however the conversation went, I ended up being talked into trombone, and I enjoyed it well enough. I did not play in high school. Once I got into high school, I focused more on, and I would say, general academic extracurriculars. Like, we did not have a debate team, and we wanted one, so a couple of us formed the debate team. Like, it was that kind of stuff where it was more, we wanted to do some of these other things to explore them, and band just kind of fell by the wayside.
That's pretty cool. I remember after I was done playing it for a few years, and then it had been given away. I remember really getting into ska, and I was like, they made the trombone cool. And now I don't have one, so not that I would have picked it.
Yeah,
up.
I mean, I enjoy listening to a decent amount of jazz and blues as well, and so the trombone was always something that you hear fairly prominently in a lot of that music as well. And, so I've always appreciated it and thought it was interesting, and I think that's why I didn't mind being talked into it as much. But the sax was definitely more where my interest was. And then, of course, my brother decided to play saxophone when he played. So,
the saxophone is an excellent instrument. There's a guy I follow on TikTok, that during the pandemic he was, or maybe it was after the pandemic. I can't remember. Time was weird back then.
I'm still weird.
Yeah, he had like a series. He would take music. He's like the saxophone solo that you'd never ask for, and he would take like he'd take a popular song. He did this for rap, R&B, rock, all sorts of stuff, and he threw in these like excellent saxophone solos. Like these like vamps and into the music, and I was like, this is like this song actually really benefits from this saxophone part that he added to it, and it was really cool. He's I think if I had to guess, he probably went to Juilliard, and because he was living, I think he's still there. He's living in New York, and I think he's making his way as a musician, as a saxophone player in New York. I can't tell. It doesn't look like, I can't tell if he has a real job, quote unquote, or like a day job. Real job's a bit pejorative, but I think can't tell if he's got a day job to support his saxophone playing. But he was really good, and he had these really good solos that he threw in. It was great, and I was like, I did not know that I needed this.
I've been watching predominantly on Instagram, but there are a handful of pianists who play in Europe, like in cafes or airports, pretty consistently. And people see them and come up and ask if they can play something. And most of the clips are like people coming up and asking, and they're a musician themselves or a singer, and so they join in with whatever they play or their voice, whatever it may be. And those have been fun to watch.
I was going to ask you back to trombone music, and I wanted to ask you if you were familiar with the George Gershwin Rhapsody in Blue interpolation done by the trombone player for Sublime. I'm trying to remember what song it is.
It does not ring a bell. And I don't know that I really have looked up specifically anybody playing just the trombone. Like most of what I would have listened to, where I focus on what I hear from a brass instrument, would be Chicago or Howling Moon, or just general artists' productions. I don't think I've ever really looked up someone doing anything with the trombone specifically, like you would see people doing with like sax or piano or whatever.
Yeah, so towards the end, I think the song is Wrong Way, and I can confirm it, but at some point, but I think it's Wrong Way. And towards the end of that song, there's a little trombone solo, and it is an interpolation of Rhapsody, the probably the most famous part of Rhapsody in Blue.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up and see.
It's real. Yeah, I remember listening to it, and then I was like, oh, cool, that's a trombone. And then I was like, I really like that. And then I was like, I don't know. Years later, I was listening to Rhapsody in Blue, which is like I really love that piece. And I was like, and I just put it together. And because I think my first thoughts when I heard Rhapsody in Blue and like realized, heard the whole piece, because like I heard parts of it in Delta commercials, Delta ads in the 80s and 90s. I don't know if they used it in the 90s or not, but pretty sure it was in the 80s. But Delta used Rhapsody in Blue for their ads, and it was a nice little ad campaign. So I knew it from that, and then I actually heard the song, the whole piece, and then I think I actually heard Sublime before I heard Rhapsody in Blue as a whole, and I thought it was really cool that they did that. I really like when somebody does something like that.
It'd be more interesting if I had some other anecdote about something that I saw with a trombone player, but I don't have anything else to add.
I can say one more thing about that album. I thought that the song, I think they had, I can't, so now it has sort of, much like something has skewed what I remember to be the truth and what actually is the truth about The Empire Strikes Back. Something has done the same thing for the Los Angeles riots from the early 90s, because I think that they had one of the dates. I think so. They have a song on the same. I think it's their self-titled album. It's called April 29th, 1992, and I think they either had a lyric wrong and they had to fix it, or they had the title of the song wrong on like the first, maybe the first few pressings of the CDs when they were released. But there's a song where they talk about the riots. Are you familiar with that song?
I believe so. Like it's ringing a bell as far as talking about it, but I'd have to hear it again to confirm if it's what I have in my mind.
Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those songs where like there's music playing, but it's more talking than singing, and there's a bit of singing in it. But I was just gonna say that they mentioned Tuscaloosa, Alabama, because I guess there was rioting in Tuscaloosa. Because I remember I was living in like one of the most white bread parts of the country, East Tennessee, Bristol. I remember when my family lived in Mobile, and I think that the elementary school I went to was like maybe 60-40 as far as like black students and white students, and then we moved to like between 3rd and 4th grade, moved to Bristol, Tennessee, and I remember going to the 4th grade, and I'm like, there was one black student in the whole 4th grade. There was me, who is like a little bit brown, and one Latino boy. That's it. And
it's amazing sometimes.
We were the only diversity.
It really is amazing sometimes how that ends up forming, playing out, whatever way you want to describe it. And obviously, it's there's a lot related to local social pressures that try to maintain that a lot of times. Maybe that's a nice way to put it. But it's kind of funny. One of the reasons we wanted to relocate to where we were and be in the particular school district we are for my son is because of how diverse that school district is compared to some of the surrounding school districts.
Yeah.
And I never would have had that specific thought if not for over the past few years trying to intentionally help erase this idea of being different based on the color.
I remember I had a work colleague in New York, and he was like, he was a black man, and I don't know that that's important for the story, except for I appreciated that he was the one saying this, and he said it's like when you have, let's say you have 50%, you have something, and you have 50% white people and 50% black people. He's like, that's not diversity. He said, that's just like half of us are white and half of us are black. That's still not enough diversity. And I really appreciated that take. That was, I think that was the first time I ever heard anyone say that. And I liked it. And it's kind of stuck in my head. I was going to say, the other thing I was going to say, I recommend that song, April 29th, 1992. Because I remember I was like a fifth grade. It was at the end of fifth grade for me. So I was like 11. No, I was still 10 years old. And I remember watching the news and, seeing the footage from a helicopter camera of LA and the rioting. And I remember specifically talking to a friend of mine and be like, do you think the riots will come to Bristol? Which is like 2%. It's like 2% black, and or let me rephrase. It's like 98% white. That's actually more. There's very little diversity there. And I just remember thinking, do you think it'll happen here? And he's like, I don't know. And like, because I didn't know. I didn't think about that. I didn't connect that there was only the one black kid in fourth grade and fifth grade to, that the fact that there's nobody here to riot. And because I remember seeing, like, it started in LA and other cities, riot, there was rioting, that spread across the country. And I just remember having that thought. And I remember seeing the video of Rodney King being beat, and I was like, I just remember thinking, it's like, that seems not okay. Like, it's, I connected the two. It's like, they seem upset about that. And, but I was going to say, I love that song because I really feel like it describes, like, it was the first thing to open my eyes to what those riots were actually about and why people were actually doing what they were doing.
It's interesting if you think about throughout our lifetimes, the different catalysts for provoking action against some level of inequality or brutality. And the whole reason I phrase it that way is, as we were talking about Rodney King, I couldn't help but think about George Floyd as well. Far more recent history at this point. But it's the same unfortunate premise, and it also was a massive catalyst for lashing out against the system in general, rightfully so. But it's just interesting to think about. We've seen more than one iteration of this story, and it's still such a fucking problem.
It is. I think it's in too small of an increments getting better. But, how many more people have to die unnecessarily? I don't know. Another connection I made as an adult was from there's an anthology series, I think on FX called American Crime Drama. It's same creators as American Horror Story, but they wouldn't telling a different kind of story. But the first season was about, it's the people versus O.J. Simpson. And I'm pretty sure that I've talked to you about this, but I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before. But I remember watching the opening scene of the first episode and saw that it was actual footage from the LA riots. And I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. And it really, it just really went into the officials in the city of Los Angeles were concerned that another riot was going to happen if they convicted OJ. So there's a lot more to it than, there was a lot of stuff that, Mark Furman was not a help for the defense. He kind of foobarred it for them. But it was one of the first cases where, or maybe the first big case where using DNA evidence was pivotal. So I recommend it. It was based on the book, The People versus O.J. Simpson. It was really well done. I do have one more thing that I meant to start the first show with as maybe kind of an insert. But it was, I had an interesting statistic to share, and that was, it was about how much airtime Taylor Swift got during the Super Bowl. She got a significant amount. She got a whopping 54 seconds, which was 0.36% of the entire Super Bowl.
And still enough to have so many people angry for some stupid reason.
Yeah, well, the Purdy family only got 12 seconds. DJ Khaled got 13 seconds. Post Malone drinking a Bud Light got 22 seconds. And the Sphere got 23 seconds. And B-roll of Caesar's Palace only got 27 seconds. And Taylor Swift got twice as much. I do really like this whole thing, because when people were talking about Kansas City going to the Super Bowl, I was like, oh, that's Taylor Swift's team. I really don't understand why people give a. Okay, there's a whole bunch of people that love her, and she's put more people in NFL stadiums than NFL games have. So shut the fuck up. And two, it's not taking away from the game, because there's so many goddamn breaks in the game. I tried watching it. It just when I've watched as much Premier League, if I did, there was a period of time where I didn't have access to proper football matches, and it was easier to watch NFL games, and it was easier to watch American football when I wasn't watching proper football. But now that I'm watching proper football pretty much every weekend, it's harder to watch American football for me. That's just.
Yeah, I tend to let the game play, and then based on what random noise I hear, I'll look up and pay attention. But I do not actually watch the game.
We had a movie. We were watching a movie, and I put it on my phone for a little bit, and then Becca was like, "Do you want to watch the game?" And so we put it on, and it was like we probably watched maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And when I say 5 to 10 minutes, I don't mean 5 to 10 minutes of playing time, but like 5 to 10 minutes of time in life.
I watched overtime. That was the only part that I actually watched.
I didn't even know it went into overtime. I looked up the score the next day. So I kind of wanted San Francisco to win, because I think San Francisco is a pretty cool city.
I didn't have any tie at all one way. Well, I take that back. So Travis Kelce did play for the University of Cincinnati, his college career. So I already knew who he was, because he's a Bearcat. So technically, out of everybody there, it's like, okay, well, there's at least some tie to Kelce with Cincinnati. Sure, great if they win, but I don't care one way or another. But it is funny that as soon as the whole Kelce-Swift relationship started to break, the Bearcats were also taking advantage of it.
Yes, do it. Free public, do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious. Nick Lachey is a Bearcat. So I know there's always some conversation around him.
Is Nick Lachey the
The 98 Degrees guy.
98 Degrees guy. Okay, I know him from Blind Love. Love is Blind. That's what it is.
Yeah, but he's one of the more high-profile people who are typically at the stadium at some point during a game. And so I remember once the whole Kelsey Swift story broke, there was some bunch of signs about whatever the link was, Bearcats linked to Swift or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember the sign, but it was just funny.
My alma mater, famous people from my alma mater are Ving Rhames.
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm blanking on her name. Parker Posey and Janelle Malone. No, Donna from The West Wing. I'm blanking on her actual name. She went to they all went years before me, but and I think
there's so the UC actually has a page on their alumni website about notable alumni, and there's a whole bunch of them.
There's a PCU, I think. Yeah, that's a movie based on that school.
David Matthews
went to Cincinnati.
Yep.
Nice.
Class of 64.
I remember being a freshman going to a junior college, Pinson, Alabama. I went to Jeff State. That was as a freshman, and this was you'll probably remember this from the late 90s. Like, you go onto any college campus and there's like a dozen people wearing North Face jackets and listening to Dave Matthews.
Yep.
I recognized the musical talent that the Dave Matthews Band had, but it was not my cup of tea, except for like 2 songs.
Yeah, I have to be in the right kind of mood to listen to them, but I did enjoy listening to them. Sarah Jessica Parker.
Oh, wow. You should look up your birthday. It's fun to see who is born on the same day as you.
Yeah, I know I've done that a couple of times before. I don't remember any of them off the top of my head, but
the only one I remember is Colin Firth. But the last time I looked it up, I was like, oh, I didn't know these people were also born on my birthday. Like, I heard of them.
Michelle Rodriguez was born a year before me, same day.
Okay.
Richard Simmons, Christy Yamaguchi, Topher Grace.
Oh, that's a good one. Is Topher Grace 1 year older than you?
Yes.
I didn't know. You cut out. I don't know if you said yes or no.
Yes.
Okay.
Apparently Bill Cosby was born on July 12th.
Huh.
Brock Lesnar.
I don't know who that is.
What do they call the Wrestling Federation now? Is it WWE now?
Yeah, World Wrestling.
Yeah.
World. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, whatever that organization is. He was a high-profile wrestler.
We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after-show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.